Today, we're diving into two absolutely massive shifts that are basically rewriting the rules for how we work: the explosion of AI and the big move to hybrid models. And this isn't just about getting a few new apps. This is a full-blown revolution in our professional lives. So let's get right into it. This quote from Daniel Christian just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It perfectly captures our new reality. The whole conversation has changed. It's no longer a question of if we should use AI. The real question is how we use it effectively. It's just there now. It's the new default, like spell check or calculator. And believe me, this isn't just some passing trend or a bit of hype. We're going to start by looking at the hard data that shows how AI has already become a core tool for doing business. Okay, so check out these numbers because they really tell the story. A recent Wharton survey found that almost half of business leaders are using generative AI, the tools that create stuff like text or images, every single day. 80% use it at least weekly. But here's the kicker: 74% are already seeing a positive return on their investment. This isn't some far-off promise, it's happening right now. So what does this actually look like for you and me on the ground floor? Let's zoom in on the individual employee. Because AI is quickly becoming this kind of personal co-pilot, and it's completely changing how we get our work done day to day. For most of us, AI is not about replacing how we think. It's about augmenting it, making us better. Think of it less like an answers machine and more like a personal assistant that helps us tailor information to our needs, learn things faster, and just be more productive overall. But, this brave new world of flexible AI-powered work, well, it's not all smooth sailing. There are challenges. While we have all this new freedom, we're also seeing something that Microsoft researchers are calling the third productivity peak. That's basically a new wave of work happening late at night, which is really starting to blur the lines between our work lives and our personal lives. And this slide really shows you the cost of that blur. The average workday, it's gotten 46 minutes longer. We're seeing a 28% jump in after-hours work, and even a 14% increase in weekend work. So yeah, the whole idea of a traditional 9 to 5 is pretty much disappearing. So we're working longer, we're working more flexibly. You'd think that all this constant digital connection would be making our teams stronger, right? Well, that leads us to this really fascinating paradox. We have more ways to connect than ever before, but we might actually be growing further apart. Now, the promise is incredible. You see new tech like this system, Mirror Blender, and you combine it with AR and VR, and you can imagine a future where hybrid collaboration is even more dynamic and creative than meeting in person. That's the dream. But the reality for now is a lot more complicated. A huge study of Microsoft employees found that remote work actually leads to more isolated, more siloed professional networks. We end up talking more with our immediate team, those are our strong ties, but we interact way less with people from other departments, our weak ties. And it turns out those weak ties are absolutely essential for sparking innovation. So even though we might feel super connected through our screens all day, the actual connections that drive new ideas and move a business forward are getting weaker and more fragmented. And this brings us up to the organizational level, where we find this massive disconnect between what employees are actually experiencing day to day and what their leadership is perceiving from the top. This productivity perception gap is pretty striking. Look at this. 80% of employees feel like they are just as productive or even more productive working flexibly. But at the same time, over half of their leaders are worried that productivity has actually gone down. That is a huge mismatch in perception. So how in the world do you bridge a gap that big? Well, it means leaders need a whole new playbook. To be effective in a hybrid world, you have to wear multiple hats. You need to be a conductor, making sure everyone's in sync, a catalyst, sparking new ideas, a coach, helping individuals grow, and a champion for your team's overall well-being. Now, one of the biggest challenges for any organization right now is something called proximity bias. It's this natural, unconscious habit we all have to favor the people we see in person. And in a hybrid world, that's a huge problem, because it can accidentally create a two-tiered system that really disadvantages your remote employees. And this data is so important because it shows who is most likely to be affected by that bias. We see that people of color in the US are choosing to work remotely or in a hybrid model at higher rates, which means if proximity bias isn't actively fought against, it could put them at a real disadvantage. And the consequences are very real. One study found that remote workers were 50%, that's 50, less likely to get promoted, even when they had the exact same performance reviews as their peers in the office. So if leaders aren't careful, they risk seriously harming the careers of their remote employees. Okay, let's zoom out one last time. All of these shifts are fundamentally redefining the job market itself. And it forces us to ask a really big question. In a world full of AI, what skills are actually valuable? What is the new human edge? I mean, this quote from a recent Purdue grad in the New York Times just kind of says it all, doesn't it? That long-held promise of a computer science degree being a golden ticket to a high-paying tech job, well, for a lot of people, it's starting to fade. And there are really two big reasons for this. First, you've got AI programming tools that can now do a lot of the work that entry-level coders used to do. And second, that's happening at the exact same time that the tech industry is going through massive layoffs. It's basically a perfect storm for new graduates. So, if AI can do the coding and the analysis, what's left for us? Well, this is where it gets interesting. The value shifts to skills that are uniquely human. Experts keep pointing to three big ones that make you irreplaceable. Curiosity, which is that drive to ask new questions and explore. Curation, the ability to sift through all the noise and find what actually matters. And connectivity, the skill of building those very relationships and networks that, as we've already seen, are so critical. Which leaves us with a final and pretty critical question. As technology keeps marching forward, automating tasks and reshaping how we work together, we have to decide what kind of work is left. What is the uniquely human work that we should be designing our jobs, our companies, and our entire society around for the future?